We were planning on getting a residency in Paraguay. To start the residency progress, one needs to personally bring a whole list of documents. Some of these cannot be older than 6 months at the time of application. Paraguay had been on a lockdown and it just had opened its borders for foreigners again. It's been now well over 5 months since we got our documents in Austria. We escaped for the last months to Mexico and waited for that opening. Now we were finally on our way to Paraguay. After 2 comfortable flights with nice view and stopover in Panama City, we arrived in Asuncion, the capital of Paraguay. The immigration process at the border was surprisingly easy and fast. Though the first big surprise that day was that my suitcase was ripped open. I had just gotten a new one in Mexico because my old suitcase had its wheels completely destroyed by the rocky Mexican streets. This one was supposed to be the lightest Samsonite suitcase in its size. Unfortunately, seemingly also the most fragile. The zipper was ripped open and the rest of the suitcase looked pretty scuffed up. I was flying with Copa Airlines, and so I took it up with the Copa Airline airport personnel. I took a photo and they filled out a damaged suitcase form. And I asked them about the procedure here, and the lady from Copa Airline promised me that someone will email or call me and I will be compensated for my damages. No problem. She gave me the print-through form, and I was confident that the issue will be dealt with really quickly. Little did I know about the incompetencies of the Copa Airline staff. Spoiler alert, months of frustrating conversations later, my luggage is still suffering from the damage of that flight. The next surprise came on our Uber ride to our Airbnb. We arrived after midnight in Paraguay, and because their politicians want to be funny, they had a nationwide curfew starting at midnight. We were stopped at a police checkpoint. They asked our young Uber driver all kinds of intimidating sounding questions. But he was pretty smooth and relaxed. He let his music videos run loud during the conversation, and when they clearly asked him to shut it off, he just lowered the volume a little bit. The police ended up checking out our passports and were satisfied with us just having arrived here in the country, so it was all good. Well, soon we became aware that we had a whole bunch of tasks to complete and not a lot of time left before our documents would expire. It was almost impossible for us to do that. We needed to go to Interpol, to a local medical doctor, to a translation service, and a notary that would set up our vows to respect Paraguayan laws and become good residents. Way too much to do in too little time. So we ended up getting an immigration helper instead. It would not have been a big deal during the immigration process ourselves, arriving in Paraguay with lots of time. But in our case now, every day counted. The immigration helper seemed to know what he was talking about. He and his colleague guided us through the residency application process in just 1 day. In fact, we then finally realized that most of our documents that we prepared were useless. To obtain the residency, all one needs from their home country is really just 2 documents. Your birth certificate, notarized, and a criminal record, also notarized. Besides that, you really just need to bring your passport, and that's really it. Now, if you're married, you also need to bring a notarized marital certificate, and then additional to that, you need the temporary deposit of an equivalent of $5,000 that you would transfer on a local bank account. But if you happen to have a university degree, you can bring that instead, notarized, and then use it instead of the deposit. We actually obtained a whole lot of other documents and notarizations that ended up being not necessary. Remember, not even the Paraguayan embassy had a clue on what is needed. Their advice ended up costing us more time and money than we actually had to invest in this project. Now, the rest of the residency process was handled by our immigration helper. Once that day was over, the big waiting started. Our immigration helper cost 1,200 euros per person. And in addition, both of us opted for the 700 euro more expensive VIP package with him. That way, we were gonna expect having our residency documents and ID cards, the Cedula, within 6 weeks instead of waiting for them between 8 to 12 months. The extra money is supposed to motivate his friends at the immigration office to be much faster at processing documents. We liked that idea, because that way we were set for having our new documents for this year's tax season and before we were gonna leave Paraguay to discover more South American countries. Things did not work as planned. Our VIP guarantee did not hold up, and 6 weeks turned into 4 months. Till then, we finally had confirmation that our ID card arrived. By that time, our lives already looked a lot different already, so the ID cards we were still not able to pick up. How so? Well, let's continue the Adventure Escape Diaries and learn more about our life in South America. Now, while waiting for the residency process to complete, we found a bit of a routine in Asuncion. We resided in a nice apartment building with a pool, a gym, and a sauna. For the first time in months, our daily routine aligned with what we were used to in Austria. I restarted doing my 5x5 strong lifts training with the weights in the gym, and in the evenings I could cook my regular dose of ribeye steak. The internet in the apartment was sufficiently fast to help us catch up with some of the administrative work we just couldn't get done at our Mexican adventures. With the seeming confidence of having our Paraguayan residency sorted out, it was time to tackle our mobility problem. What a better way to discover South America than with a 4x4 overlander truck. Without having planned any of this, it just seemed like a great idea to off-road through all South America. Flying was off limits due to the lockdowns, but the border crossings should be open, right? Or so we thought. Our car requirements: an automatic 4x4 with AC and ideally enough space to sleep in it. Seemingly lots of cars like that on Paraguayan streets. But how to start looking for a car when one doesn't speak the language so well? My Spanish improved over the time in Mexico, but suddenly in Paraguay, I felt like I had to start everything from new. Paraguayan Spanish is mixed with their native language, Guarani, apparently one of the hardest Spanish dialects to understand, even when one speaks Spanish natively. So we reached out to some people who we met on expat communities and Facebook groups. Some nice people with lots of advice. Everyone seemed to know about useful things, especially the Hungarian couple Sultan and Renata will stay in good memory. They were the only expats we met in Paraguay who also just came here to get the residency, but weren't necessarily planning on staying for a long time. Unfortunately though, they were already on their way out when we just arrived. Now, being Paraguayan residency buddies, we are confident that we will meet up again with them in sometime in the near future. However, we weren't always that lucky with our other contacts. We were warned about some people in Paraguay might try to scam us, and ironically, we were warned by some people who then eventually tried to scam us themselves. We ended up moving from the capital Asuncion to a smaller town called Villarrica. From there, we looked at some of the cars in the area. After weeks of hoarding through online ads and going to all dealers in the area, we ended up buying a Toyota Prado from a private person. Of all the cars we saw, it was in its best shape. We were hesitant at first because we weren't sure if we can actually sleep in that car, but due to the foldable rear bench and the third row bench, we actually found a good solution with an air mattress. So at this point, we had the car, but it would still take us many weeks to finalize the car documents. If you want some deeper insight in how we ended up finding our dear Toyota Prado, check out Alexandra Allover's great video on purchasing a car in Paraguay. She goes into all the details. It is quite a process and took us over a month to complete. She gives you all kinds of step-by-step guides in her native tongue German with English subtitles. With the car, we found ourselves a moving home. Finally, we were able to go places without relying on public transport or other people or taxis and Uber. The car ended up being my most expensive purchase to date. Even my 33-foot sailboat was cheaper than this car. But the money was well spent. To date, our dear Prado is getting us places that very few people have ever seen. With this newly found foundation, we continued our journey in Latin America, thinking we would stay in Paraguay for at least 3 months. And then, suddenly, a big pleasant surprise was waiting for us. See more in the next episode of the Adventure Escape Diaries. With this inspirational journey continuing in the next video, I want to make you aware of my current offer for a free online coaching session with me. With the Adventure Escape Diaries, you can follow my journey to personal freedom. And now let's make your dream life possible as well. You want to talk to me about reaching your fitness goal, healthy eating on the go, or you need help emigrating from your country and finding a new home? I am here for you, and I can point you into all the right directions. Get inspired by this one-time session or join me for a regular coaching. So go ahead, follow the link in the description and book your free appointment right now. I can't wait for you to plan your own escape and join the adventure.